Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the information you need to understand, the sources, the research, whatever it is, and we deep dive into it. We pull out the key insights, make the complex stuff clear, basically give you that shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. It's your custom deep dive. Okay, but look, before we properly jump into today's deep dive, we do have a quick favor to ask you. It really helps us out. If you're enjoying what you hear, if you find this useful, please take a second, head over to YouTube, find the channel Daily Colloquial English, hit subscribe, and maybe share it with your friends. Your support genuinely helps us keep creating these detailed explorations for you. We really appreciate it. Okay, so today, we're tackling something maybe a bit different, but I think incredibly valuable, especially if you want to be, truly well-informed in this sort of information age. We've got this fascinating passage here. It's about a pretty critical topic, media violence and aggression. But we're not just looking at the science itself. Today, we're really honing in on the language, the precision needed to communicate that science effectively.
We're going to use something called a Cloze test, fill in the blanks. But think of each blank as like a little window into the power of word choice.
Yeah, it's actually fascinating, isn't it? How often we just skim,
I mean,
especially with scientific text or research papers. We read quickly, and we can easily miss the subtle but really crucial meanings hidden in specific word choices. So this deep dive, it's really going to challenge you to slow down a bit, to analyze, to really appreciate the kind of precision you need to communicate these complex ideas accurately. Like you said, it's not just about finding the right answer for the blank. It's about understanding why it's the right answer. Why does this word matter more than that word? What does it tell us about the claim being made?
Exactly. Think of it like a linguistic workout for your brain. Seriously, it helps you spot those aha moments in pretty much any text you read, news, research, even just an important email. So our mission today, yes, fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
But more importantly, really elaborate, explain exactly how you recognize the correct answer. We're going to weigh every single multiple choice option. We'll break down the grammar, the vocabulary, the context, maybe even some of those tricky idiomatic expressions. It's all about building a deeper appreciation for precise language and what that means for how we understand science.
It's about critical consumption of information.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the passage we're diving into today, it really grabs your attention right away. It starts. The relationship between media violence exposure and aggressive behavior has been the subject of social, political, and scientific attention for decades. I mean, that's a huge statement right off the bat, isn't it? Decades. Social, political, and scientific attention.
It really is. And that immediately tells you this isn't some obscure academic niche. This isn't a new conversation that just popped up. That phrase, social, political, and scientific attention, it signals that this debate resonates widely. It affects public perception, it fuels political discussions, it drives scientific inquiry, it's woven into the fabric of society.
So it's not just researchers talking to researchers.
Not at all. It impacts policy, parenting discussions, community concerns. Understanding that broad context, why so many different groups care about this, is really crucial before we even get into the specific findings. It grounds the whole thing in real-world relevance.
Okay, so with that context, the passage then gets into some of the findings. It says that experimental studies of exposure to violent television and video games, short-term increases in aggressive behavior in children, adolescents, and adults. So, okay, early research, especially these experimental types, seem to point toward the connection, at least in the short term.
Right. But here's where that precision language we talked about really kicks in. We need to ask, what kind of connection are they describing? And what does short-term increases actually imply? Experimental studies are powerful because in a controlled setting, they can help establish causation. Variable A causes effect B.
Right, like in a lab.
Exactly. You expose one group to violent media, another to nonviolent media, and you measure immediate aggressive responses. Short-term increases means just that effect's seen right after exposure or maybe for a few hours. It doesn't necessarily mean it creates a chronically aggressive person.
Okay, that's an important distinction.
It is. And then the passage adds another layer. It mentions that correlational studies suggest a longer term between media violence exposure and aggressive behavior in the natural environment. And this difference, experimental versus correlational, is absolutely vital if you want to be properly informed.
Because correlation isn't causation.
Precisely. Correlational studies look at the real world. They see if two things tend to happen together, like, do kids who watch more violent TV tend to be more aggressive? They can show a link, an association.
But not that one caused the other.
Correct. There could be other factors involved. Maybe more aggressive kids are drawn to violent media, for instance. But these studies are still super important because they suggest patterns in the real world over longer periods that lab experiments might miss. So the challenge for researchers, and for us trying to understand it, is piecing together evidence from both types of studies.
Okay, and then here's where it gets, well, even more complicated, right? The passage talks about the evolution of more complex and realistic media formats. It mentions going from old TV to modern video games. That evolution itself must make it harder to compare studies over time.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive methodological headache for researchers. Think about it. How do you compare the potential effect of, say, a cartoon from the 1960s with a hyper-realistic first-person shooter game today?
Yeah, it's apples and oranges, or maybe apples and virtual reality grenades.
Kind of. The media characteristics that might influence aggression have changed so much. Passive viewing versus active participation. Simple graphics versus photorealism. Linear stories versus player-driven narratives. Online interaction.
Wow, yeah, lots of new variables.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Identification with avatars, moral choices in games, social pressures in multiplayer environments. These are all factors that might mediate or moderate the effects of violence. The old, simple models might just not cut it anymore.
So a key takeaway for anyone reading this kind of research, you have to look at when the study was done and what specific kind of media they were actually looking at.
Definitely. Context is everything.
Okay, so with all that background, the history, the different study types, the changing media landscape, let's zoom right in on the words themselves. Let's tackle this Cloze test, starting with blank 46, and see how word choice shapes our understanding. All right, first one up. Number 46, it's right in that sentence about experimental studies. It reads, experimental studies of exposure to violent television and video games, short-term increases in aggressive behavior in children, adolescents, and adults. And our options are 1 has shown, 2 have shown, 3 shown, 4 shows.
Okay, this is fundamental grammar, but crucial for clarity. It's testing subject-verb agreement and the correct verb tense. Let's break them down one by one. Option 1, has shown. Has is singular. You'd say the study has shown.
Right, but our subject here is experimental studies, plural.
Exactly. So studies is plural, has is singular. They don't agree. Grammatically incorrect. Simple as that.
Okay, eliminates option 1.
Option 2, have shown. Have is the plural auxiliary verb. Does it agree with experimental studies?
Yes, studies have. That sounds right.
It is right for agreement. Now, what about the tense? Have shown is the present perfect tense. This tense is often used in scientific writing to talk about findings from the past that are still considered relevant or true now. They contribute to the current body of knowledge.
So studies done in the past have shown results that we still consider today.
Precisely. It suggests established findings. So, have shown agrees with the plural subject and uses an appropriate tense for this scientific context. Looks very promising.
Okay. What about option 3? Just shown.
Shown is the past participle. It needs a helping verb, an auxiliary verb like have or has or was, to function as the main verb in a sentence like this. You could say the results shown were clear, where shown modifies results. But here we need a verb telling us what the studies did. Shown by itself is incomplete.
Right, it feels like something's missing. Studies shown increases. Nope.
Exactly. So option 3 is grammatically incomplete here.
And option 4, shows.
Shows is simple present tense, but again, it's singular. A study shows, but studies.
Studies. Shows, definitely wrong. Same problem as has shown. Singular verb, plural subject.
Correct. So we've analyzed all 4. The only one that works grammatically with the plural subject, studies, and uses the appropriate present perfect tense to describe established findings is
2, have shown. It clicks perfectly. And it's not just grammar for grammar's sake, is it? Using the right form makes the statement sound more authoritative, more scientifically grounded.
It absolutely does. Precision matters, even at this basic level.
Okay, moving on. Blank 47. This is in the sentence about correlational studies. It reads, also, correlational studies suggest a longer term, 47, between media violence exposure and aggressive behavior in the natural environment. Choices: 1, association; 2, determination; 3, negligence; 4, confidence.
All right, this one's about vocabulary and finding the most precise noun to describe the kind of link correlational studies can suggest. Remember, they don't prove cause and effect.
Right, so we need a word that means link but isn't too strong.
Exactly. Let's look at option 1, association. What does that mean?
Well, an association is a connection, a relationship between things. Like these two things tend to go together.
Perfect. And in statistics, correlation specifically measures the strength and direction of an association between variables. So this word fits the context of correlational studies, like a glove. It implies a link without overstating causality.
Okay, seems strong. Option 2, determination.
Determination usually means figuring something out precisely, or it can mean resolve or firmness of purpose. While studies involve determining things, the word itself doesn't describe the link or relationship found. You might determine that an association exists, but the association itself isn't called determination.
Right, different meaning.
Yep.
Okay, option 3, negligence.
Yeah, negligence means failing to take proper care. Totally irrelevant here. It's got nothing to do with a statistical link between media and behavior, just a distractor.
Definitely. And option 4, confidence.
Confidence is about belief or certainty. Researchers gain confidence in their findings, or we talk about statistical confidence intervals. But again, confidence doesn't describe the nature of the relationship between the two variables being studied. It's about how sure we are about the finding, not the finding itself.
So back to what correlational studies actually suggest.
They suggest a link, a pattern, a connection where things occur together.
Which is best described by?
1. Association. It's the precise, scientifically appropriate term here. Using association signals that we understand the limits of correlational data, it shows a link, not necessarily a cause. That's crucial for responsible interpretation.
Makes total sense. Precision again? Okay, blank 48. This one tackles that issue of evolving media we discussed. The sentence says, which has raised concerns about the early studies of television-based media violence exposure to modern-day television special effects and realistic interactive video games. Options: 1, felicity; 2, publicity; 3, sincerity; 4, applicability.
Right, so the media changed. Do the old findings still? Well, do they still work or make sense now? We need a noun that captures that idea of relevance or appropriateness in a new context.
Okay, option 1, felicity. Sounds kind of...
Happy.
It means intense happiness or sometimes aptness of expression. Neither fits here. We're worried about whether old research is still relevant, not whether it's happy or well-phrased. Totally wrong context.
Got it. Option 2, publicity.
Publicity is about public attention, promotion. While researchers want their work known, the concern here isn't about whether old studies are getting enough press. It's about whether their findings are still valid or relevant given the changes in media. The issue is scientific relevance, not public relations.
Okay, so not publicity. Option 3, sincerity.
Sincerity means honesty, genuineness. Are we questioning if the early researchers were honest?
No, the passage doesn't imply that at all. It's about whether the results hold up. Exactly. The concern isn't about the researcher's integrity. It's about whether findings based on, say, 1970s TV still hold true for today's complex interactive media. So sincerity is off the mark.
Which leaves option 4, applicability.
And what does applicability mean?
It means, can you apply it? Is it relevant? Does it fit the new situation?
Bingo. The concern is precisely about the applicability, the relevance, the appropriateness of those early findings to the modern media landscape. Can we apply what we learned from studies on the A-Team to Grand Theft Auto V? That's the question.
So the word that perfectly captures that concern is for applicability. It nails the issue of whether old knowledge still applies in a new world.
It does, and recognizing this concept is key to understanding the ongoing challenges in media effects research.
All right, blank 49. This focuses on how video games grew. Sentence. Home-based video games, for example, have increased 49 in sophistication, realism, and prevalence during the past 20 years. Choices. 1, dramatically. 2, hardly. 3, legally. 4, densely.
We need an adverb here to describe how video games increased in these aspects: sophistication, realism, prevalence. Think about the change over 20 years. Was it small? Was it related to law? Was it about density?
Well, thinking about games 20 years ago versus now, the change was huge, massive.
Okay, let's check the options. Option 1, dramatically. Does that fit the huge, massive change?
Yes. Dramatically means in a striking, significant way. That seems to fit the transformation of video games perfectly.
It really does. It captures that sense of profound change. Let's keep that as a strong contender. Option 2, hardly.
Hardly means barely, scarcely. That's the complete opposite of what happened with video games. They didn't hardly increase. They exploded.
Right. So option 2 is clearly wrong. Option 3, legally.
Did they increase legally? I mean, they operate legally. But did the increase happen because of laws? Or in a legal manner? That doesn't seem right. The increase was about technology and market adoption.
Exactly. Legally describes the manner in relation to law, which isn't the primary driver or descriptor of their growth in sophistication or realism. It's semantically irrelevant here.
Okay. Option 4, densely.
Densely refers to how tightly packed something is, like a dense forest or dense information. Does that apply to an increase in sophistication or prevalence?
No, that doesn't make sense at all. You wouldn't say sophistication increased densely.
Right, it's the wrong kind of description.
Yeah.
So going back to that sense of huge, striking change.
It has to be, 1, dramatically. It's the only word that accurately reflects the scale and speed of video game evolution over that period.
Agreed. It emphasizes the magnitude of change, which justifies the later point about needing new research.
And that leads us straight to the last one in this segment, blank 50. It's about the consequence of that dramatic change. Sentence: this growth and change in media formats. 50 more modern research on the impact of media violence exposure in general and video game violence in particular. The options look a bit complicated here. 1, have called for lead to. 2, have called to lead for. 3, has led to calls for. 4, has led for called to.
Yeah, this one is testing a more complex grammatical structure subject-verb agreement again, plus tense and idiomatic phrasing. First, let's look at the subject. This growth and change. Is that singular or plural?
It mentions 2 things, growth and change. But it feels like it's talking about them as one combined phenomenon, one process, like the rise and fall.
Exactly. Often when two closely related nouns like this are joined by and, they're treated as a single conceptual unit, taking a singular verb. So we're likely looking for a singular verb form.
Okay, singular verb need. Let's check the options. Option 1, have called for lead to, starts with have.
Have is plural. So wrong agreement right away. Plus, the rest called for lead to is just ungrammatical chaos.
Yeah, makes no sense. Option 2, have called to lead for. Again, starts with have.
Plural, so wrong agreement. And again, called to lead for is not a standard English phrase. Gibberish.
Okay, so options 1 and 2 are out purely on subject-verb agreement. Option 3 has led to calls for. Starts with has.
Has is singular, so it agrees with our singular subject, this growth and change. Good start. Now, does the phrase make sense? Has led to means has resulted in, and calls for means demands for or requirements for.
So this growth and change has resulted in demands for more modern research.
Does that sound logical and grammatically correct?
Yes, that flows perfectly. It makes complete sense contextually, too. The changes created a need for new research.
What's very strong? Let's just check option 4. Has led for called to. It starts with has, which is singular, so agreement is okay. But what about the rest?
Led isn't the past participle led? L-E-D.
Correct. Led here is either the present tense verb or the metal, so that's wrong. And for called to is, again, just meaningless word salad, completely unidiomatic and incorrect structure.
Wow. So when you break it down, option 3 is the only one that has correct subject-verb agreement, correct verb form, led, and uses a standard meaningful idiomatic phrase, led to calls for.
Exactly. It's the only one that is both grammatically sound and semantically coherent. It clearly states the consequence. The evolution of media necessitated new research.
Rather 3 has led to calls for. That was a tricky one, but breaking it down piece by piece really worked.
Okay, let's push on. Blank 51. We're back to studies on video game violence specifically. The sentence says, studies of video game violence exposure have typically shown with aggression in samples of children and adolescents. And the options are about arranging adjectives and adverbs. 1, relationship significantly positive. 2, positively relationship significant. 3, significant positive relationship. 4, significant relationship positively. Right. This is all about word order. We have a noun, relationship, and we need to describe it using significant, an adjective meaning important or large enough to matter, and positive, an adjective describing the direction of the relationship, more exposure, linked to more aggression. We also have the adverb forms significantly and positively.
Okay, so where do adjectives and adverbs usually go?
Adjectives typically go directly before the noun they modify. If you have multiple adjectives, there's often a preferred order, but they still come before the noun. Adverbs usually modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. If an adverb modifies an adjective, it usually comes right before that adjective.
Got it. Let's apply that. Option 1, relationship significantly positive.
Here, the adjectives adverbs come after the noun relationship, and significantly positive feels awkward there. You wouldn't normally say a car fast red, you'd say a fast red car. This order feels unnatural.
Yeah, feels backwards.
Yeah.
Option 2, positively relationship significant.
This is even worse. Positively is an adverb trying to modify. Relationship, no. And significant is stranded after the noun. Grammatically scrambled.
Definitely not that one. Option 3, significant positive relationship.
Okay, here we have two adjectives, significant and positive, placed directly before the noun relationship. Is this order natural? Significant, describing importance degree, followed by positive, describing nature direction.
A significant positive relationship. Yeah, that sounds completely normal and clear. It tells me the relationship matters and it's positive.
It follows the standard English adjective order. This looks correct. Let's just check option 4. Significant relationship positively.
Adjective significant before the noun. But then the adverb positively comes after the noun. Can an adverb just sit there modifying the noun?
No, not really. Positively should be modifying a verb or adjective. If you wanted to use it, it might be something like shown a relationship that is significantly positive, but as written, significant relationship positively is grammatically awkward and unclear.
So the clearest, most standard, and grammatically correct way to phrase this is
3. Significant positive relationship. Adjectives before the noun in a natural order. It precisely conveys both the statistical importance and the direction of the finding.
clear communication of the finding. Makes sense. Okay, next up, blank 52. This explores why video games might have a stronger link than TV. The sentence. There are good reasons, such as the participant nature of video game playing as compared to the more passive nature of viewing television. To 52, that video game violence exposure may be more strongly related to aggressive behavior than television violence exposure. Options. 1. Exasperate. 2. Hypothesize. 3. Incarcerate. 4. Evade.
We need a verb here. The sentence structure is, there are good reasons to verb of that. What do scientists do when they have good reasons to think something might be true, especially before testing it?
They form a theory or a guess, an educated guess.
Exactly. Now let's look at the verbs. Option 1, exasperate.
Means to annoy intensely. Definitely not what scientists do with good reasons. Doesn't fit at all.
Right. Option 2, hypothesize.
To hypothesize. That means to propose an explanation or theory based on limited evidence as a starting point for investigation. That sounds exactly like what we need. You have reasons, active versus passive media, so you hypothesize a stronger effect for video games.
Precisely. Hypothesize is the core scientific verb for forming a testable prediction based on reasoning or prior evidence. Fits perfectly.
Okay. Option 3, incarcerate.
To imprison, clearly irrelevant.
Clearly. Option 4, evade.
To avoid or escape. Scientists with good reasons don't try to evade a potential finding, they investigate it. So this is the opposite of the scientific process.
Yeah, so it's really straightforward when you think about the scientific method. The only verb that makes sense here is to hypothesize.
Correct. It captures that crucial step of forming a specific testable idea based on logical reasoning about the differences between the media types.
All right, blank 53. This refers back to an early study that compared TV and video games. Sentence. One early experimental study found no difference between the impact of video game versus televised violence on short-term aggressive behavior in children. Both types of media violence, short-term aggressive behavior. The options are verb phrases. 1, to related were, 2 were to related, 3 were to relate, 4 were related to.
Okay, we need to complete the phrase describing the connection found in that early study. The study found both types of media violence had some connection to aggression, even if there wasn't a difference between them. We need the correct passive voice structure to say they had a relationship with or were connected to.
Right, so both types of media violence and in the verb phrase. Let's see, option 1, to related were.
Word order is completely jumbled, makes no grammatical sense. To related isn't a thing here.
Nope. Option 2, were to relate.
Still jumbled. To related is still wrong. Incorrect structure.
Okay, option 3, were to relate.
This structure, were to relate, usually implies a future plan or intention in the past. They were to relate the findings later. It doesn't quite mean had a connection with in the way we need here.
Yeah, it sounds like the violence was supposed to relate something. Different meaning. Option 4, were related to.
Let's break it down. Were, past tense plural verb, agrees with both types. Related past participle, forming the passive voice. To, preposition connecting related to the object, short-term aggressive behavior.
Both types of media violence were related to short-term aggressive behavior. That sounds exactly right. It states the connection that was found.
It's the standard correct passive voice construction for expressing this relationship. It means a link or connection was observed.
So the clear winner for grammar and meaning is 4 were related to, It accurately reports that finding from the early study.
Precisely. It captures the nuance that both showed a link, even if they were equivalent at the time.
Nearly there. Blank 54. Back to how video games have changed. Sentence. However, there has been a considerable increase in the realism and violence in video games since that study was conducted. Options. 1. Magnitude. 2. Serenity. 3. Mutilation. 4. Sorority.
We need a noun to go alongside realism. Both realism and this other quality have increased considerably. It needs to describe some aspect or characteristic of the violence itself.
Okay. Option 1. Magnitude.
Magnitude means the great size, extent, scale, or importance of something. Can violence have magnitude?
Yeah, you could talk about the magnitude of the violence, meaning its intensity, its scale, how impactful it is. An increase in realism and magnitude sounds plausible. Games look more real, and the violence depicted is perhaps more intense or widespread within the game.
That fits well. It's a broad term covering intensity and scale. Let's hold on to that. Option 2, serenity.
Serenity means peace, calm, the absolute opposite of violence. Definitely not.
Right. Option 3, mutilation.
Mutilation is a specific type of graphic violence. Could that have increased? Sure. But is it the best word to pair with realism to describe a general increase in the quality of violence? It feels a bit too specific. Magnitude seems broader, covering more than just one type of graphic depiction.
That's a good point. While mutilation might be part of the increase, magnitude seems a better fit for describing an overall increase in the intensity or scale of violence generally, alongside realism. It's more encompassing.
Okay. And option 4, sorority.
A society for female students. Again, completely irrelevant.
So comparing magnitude and mutilation, magnitude seems to capture the intended meaning better. A general increase in the intensity or scale of violence.
I agree. 1, magnitude works best here. It suggests the violence isn't just looking more real, it's also being depicted with greater intensity or impact.
Which, again, reinforces why old studies might lack applicability. Final one, blank 55. This ends the passage with a surprising point. Sentence. Surprisingly, however, there has been 55 study comparing television and video game exposure. Options. 1, very recent little. 2, very little recent. 3, little very recently. 4, very little recently.
Okay, word order again involving quantifiers, little, very little, and time words, recent, recently. The sentence implies a surprising lack of recent comparative studies. We need the phrase that correctly modifies study to mean not much study that is also recent.
Okay. Option 1, very recent little study.
The order recent little sounds quite unnatural in English when little means not much. We usually put the quantifier before the adjective.
Yeah, recent little sounds wrong. Option 2, very little recent study.
Here, very little acts as a quantifier modifying recent study, so it means a very small amount of recent study. Does that fit the meaning?
Yes, there has been very little recent study. That sounds perfect. It clearly indicates a scarcity of up-to-date comparative research.
Seems correct. Let's check the others. Option 3, little, very recently study.
Recently is an adverb, placing it between very and study and using little before it. It just feels grammatically messy and unclear.
It is. The structure is awkward and doesn't clearly modify study in the intended way.
Okay, option 4, very little recently study.
Again, the adverb recently seems misplaced. Very little recently might describe when something happened, for e.g., very little happened recently, but it doesn't effectively quantify recent study in this structure.
So comparing them, option 2 seems the most direct and grammatically sound way to say not much study that is recent.
I agree. 2, very little recent study correctly places the quantifier very little before the adjective recent, clearly expressing the surprising lack of updated comparative work in this area.
Which is a really important finding in itself. Hashtag tag outro. Wow, okay, that was quite the linguistic workout. My brain definitely feels like it's done some heavy lifting there, digging into every single word.
It really shows, doesn't it? We didn't just find answers, we explored why they were answers. Why one word fits perfectly and another, maybe subtly different, throws the whole meaning off.
Yeah, and connecting it back, like you said earlier, it demonstrates just how vital that precision is, especially when you're talking about complex, sometimes controversial research like media violence.
Absolutely. A slightly wrong verb tense, a misplaced adjective using determination instead of association. These aren't just minor errors. They can genuinely shift the perceived meaning, potentially leading people to draw the wrong conclusions from the research.
So being able to spot those nuances, understanding why a scientist chose that specific word, is key to actually understanding what they're claiming.
It's fundamental to critical thinking and being truly well-informed. It's not passive consumption, it's active engagement with the language used to present information. You have to analyze how it's being said, not just what's being said.
Totally agree. It's about looking under the hood of the language. This whole exercise really drove that home for me. Being informed isn't just about gathering facts. It's about critically engaging with how those facts are framed and communicated, down to the last adverb.
Which leads me to a final thought, something for you, our listener, to maybe mull over. We've talked about the dramatic evolution of media, video games, realism, interactivity. And the passage ended by highlighting the surprising lack of recent comparative studies between newer formats like modern video games and older ones like television. So the question is, given this rapid technological change and this apparent gap in up-to-date comparative research, how much of our current understanding, public understanding, policy debates about media's impact is actually grounded in solid current evidence for today's media? And how much might still be based, maybe unconsciously, on assumptions drawn from studies of older, perhaps less potent media technologies from decades ago? What are the implications if our knowledge base hasn't fully kept pace with the media reality? Something to think about.
That is a really powerful question. A bit unsettling, actually. Definitely food for thought. Thank you for joining us on this very deep dive into language, grammar, media, and aggression. We hope it was as illuminating for you as it was for us, and we hope it sharpens your eye for the power of precise language everywhere you encounter it. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to the next deep dive with you.